Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yep. How are you all?
Fine, ma'am.
Kevin is very doubtful. Actually, how am I? Are you thinking?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Abhiram, what happened to you? I haven't seen you for a few days.
There has been problems with the internet, so I've been trying to fixing it.
Okay, so it's all right now.
Yes, ma'am, it's all right.
Okay. Yes, so we have a new face today with us. I mean, for some people, I think it's familiar. She is familiar. Yes, Mary Angelina, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, her name is Mary Angelina. Tell us more about
Ma'am.
you. Yes.
More about you.
What?
What?
Where are you from? What are your hobbies? Tell us anything. Anything about you.
Ma'am, I am from
Not to ma'am, that you already told me, to the rest of the people. She is from Airur, right?
right?
We cannot hear you properly.
Cannot hear you. Now you can hear, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. My
Hmm.
name is Mary Angelina. I'm from Airur. Ma'am, it's enough.
Tell us something more. We all did this, isn't it? Isn't it, guys? Yes, we all did this. We all came through the same stages. So obviously you'll have to. Hmm. Why did you choose psychology?
Ma'am.
Simply.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, enough. Did you go through the textbook?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So we were discussing about, yeah, do you guys have anything to tell her? Nothing. Nothing at all. No? Amal Roshan, do you know her? She has been studying here from 5th to 10th. So not a new student in the school, but new for me and for some of us. Okay. Yeah. So again, we were studying about the experimental method. Which all methods did we already complete? Sanjana?
Experimental method.
First one, we just learned one.
I can't recall.
Starting with the O. Right now, each one of us is doing that, and you are the focus. Observation method. And the second one was experimental method. Okay, we didn't finish that. We have a little more to complete. Okay, so what is special in experimental methods from naturalistic observation? Can you just tell me? What is possible in experimental method from, I mean, different from the naturalistic observation method?
Experimental method is more controlled, conducted in a more controlled environment.
Yes, we can control factors. We can control certain factors when we do an experiment. Okay, and what are the methods of control, or what all things do we control? You know that?
Independent variable.
Independent variable is the variable that we vary. We change the values. The experimenter changed its values. And I told you there are different other factors that might have an influence on the dependent variable, on dv. Okay, so we are studying the effect of independent variable or IV on dv actually in an experiment. But there are several other factors that can come into play and it will influence the dv. So we have to control all those factors if we want to study the effect of IV on dv. Okay, we call it extraneous variables or external factors. The factors coming and disturbing in between. Okay, so we will learn about the control techniques today. I hope you can see the screen. Yes? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
It should be noted that in an experiment, except for the experimental manipulation, other conditions are kept constant for both experimental and control groups. So this happens, this process of keeping other things constant or the other factors constant, this happens in both the groups, that is experimental group as well as the control group. Okay, even though control group is a comparison group, we use these control factors or use this controlling methods in both the groups, both the experimental as well as the control groups. Now, all relevant variables in an experimental studies that might influence the dependent variable. So we are concerned about the dependent variable. The dependent variable, in the name itself, it's there. It is dependent on a lot of factors. Okay, so we are just interested in learning the influence of IV on DV. Okay, IV and DV are our babies. We are only interested in them. But there are several other kids coming in influencing our babies. That is a problem. And mainly the dependent variable, DV. Okay, and we are studying the influence of IV on DV, but we should take care that we have to control all other factors that might influence DV. Hmm?
Ma'am,
So, yeah,
ma'am, will you repeat again the points?
okay. See, I'll draw here and show you. So, we are studying IV's influence on DV. Okay, independent variables influence on DV. That is the focus of our study. Now, there are some other factors from the environment or might be inside, not inside, maybe internal factors of the individuals participating in the study. That might influence our DV. Okay, that might have an influence on DV. So when we look from an external perspective, see, there are so many factors plus IV that has an influence on our DV, isn't it? But we have to learn or we have to find out only this relationship, cause effect relationship. I told you in experimental methods, we try to establish cause effect relationship. So here we are only interested in studying the effect of IV on DV only. For that, we have to make sure that we control these factors coming from the environment and maybe the internal factors of the individual, maybe lack of motivation, all those things. Okay, so we have to make sure that these factors are controlled. There are certain techniques for that also. And that is the topic that we are going to study now. So there are so many factors, as I told you. See this statement once more. There can be many factors or many variables that can have an influence on the dependent variable, which is the DV. And they have to be controlled. Only then we can make sure that the influence that is on the DV is from IV only or IV alone. Okay. So DV has changed only because of IV. Again, when we take the example of the exercise, I told you in the last class, exercise and depressive features, isn't it? Discussed about depressive features. So we have to make sure that the difference in depressive features has occurred only because of our IV. What is our IV? Different amount of exercise given, different hours of exercise given. Okay, if we have to make sure of that, then we have to control all other factors that can influence our depressive features. Maybe again, presence of kids around, that can be one factor. So experimental group and control group. Maybe we cannot eliminate. The first method is eliminating the kids from the scenario, so that that won't influence the depressive features. Okay, otherwise, if children are present, if it is inevitable to remove them from the scenario, then we I mean, not induce, we maintain the presence of children in both the groups, that is in control group versus experimental group. So that's constant there, isn't it? For both the groups it's the same. You'll see the methods, then you'll understand. Before that, there are three types of variables which have to be controlled. One is organismic variables. Please take down the names. Organismic variables, situational or environmental variables or environment variables, and sequential variables. Three types of variables are to be controlled. This is a general category. We have even more specific ones inside each. Organismic variables means the variables that are persistent in the individual itself, in the organism itself. Okay, for example, anxiety, intelligence, personality of the individual. Like, how can we control personality of an individual? Or if we are doing a test, we are doing a study or research or experiment, and how can we control intelligence of a person? We know that organismic variables can influence our DV. Hmm? So, if intelligence is one factor that might influence our DV, how will we control that variable?
We take people with similar mindsets,
Similar mindset,
means like similar way of thought or
way of
IQ.
thought, IQ. That is the word, not mindset. It is IQ. If we are talking about intelligence, obviously, we have to take individuals with similar IQ. Okay, or it should be random IQs, not a single IQ alone. Understand? So in both the experimental group as well as the control group, we need to have people either with the same IQs, or it should be random. Like the people should be from the lower end of the spectrum to the higher end. Then we can say that it is constant there. Okay. No effect of a particular IQ is being affected on the DV. All right. Similarly, personality also. Either you should have people with the similar personality types, or you should have people with different types of personality. So if we are taking 30 people, then it should not be like some 25 are of narcissistic personality and only 5 are, that becomes a minority, isn't it? That's not constant. So either you should take all the individuals with similar personality, or it should be completely random. All right. Then, Abhiram, what are you laughing at?
I'm nothing. I sneezed.
Sneezed. Okay. Your sneeze looks a bit weird.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. Next one. Situational or environmental variables or environment variables. That is the next one. Obviously, organismic means within the individual, and the next one would be external. External factors, that is situational or environment variables operating at the time of conducting the experiment. Can be noise, can be temperature, can be humidity, anything. Hmm. Like maybe if we are conducting the research during the daytime, maybe we were not able to conduct or complete the research, complete the test for a few individuals during the daytime. Then, should we do it during the night? No. It should be done the next day, maybe during the daytime again. So that means the temperature is constant there. And actually, we have to make sure that we complete during that day itself. Otherwise, again, some variables might differ. Okay, that is about situational or environment variables. Now, the last one is sequential variables. Sequential variables arise when they are tested. The participants are tested in different conditions, like maybe the sequence. If we are given questionnaires in a sequence, like the if what can I give you as an example? Maybe two questionnaires are there for the experiment or for the test, and the first one has 100 questions. Hmm. Second one has 75 questions. Okay. So by the time you finish doing the first set, you will be tired or bored, isn't it? Yes, obviously. And take another situation. First one is 100 questions. Second set has only 5 questions. Okay. And I'm giving it in the reverse order. That is, some of the participants get 5 questions at first, so they understand only 5 are there. So they'll be motivated more to do the next, isn't it? But then only they'll realize the truth that they have to answer 100 questions. Okay, so the mindset again, the thought processes and the motivation of people will be different in both the cases, right? So such variables has to be controlled while doing a research. Okay, so in a nutshell, we have three types of variables that have to be controlled. One is organismic variables, which pertains to the individual itself. Okay, and second one is situational or environment variables. Third one is sequential variables, which is based on a sequence or a series. By doing the test, if they are means if the participants are given different conditions in a sequence or as a series, that is sequential variables. Okay, is that clear? Okay. So the next portion is control techniques. We have learned about the variables to control. Now we learn how to control these in an experiment. Okay. Um, Meryl, please read the first point.
Since the goal of an experiment is to minimize extraneous variables, the best way to handle this problem is to eliminate them from the experimental settings. Example, conduct experiment in soundproof roofs.
Hmm.
When elimination is not possible, then try to hold the factors constant so that their effect remains the same throughout the experiment. For controlling organismic and background variables, matching is also used. Here, the relevant variables in the two groups are equated or are held constant by taking matched pairs across conditions of the experiment.
Okay. So first point, since the goal of an experiment is to, what is the goal of the experiment? One is to study the influence of IV on DV. Along with that is to minimize extraneous variables. Extraneous variables means the type of variables that can influence our DV. Okay, that might arise during an experiment. So the best way to handle this problem, I told you about the kids in our example. The best way is to eliminate them from that situation. Just like when one shoots a video or one shoots a film, during film shooting, the director or the cameraman asks the people around to clear out the scene, isn't it? Because they might enter the frame in which they are taking, in which they are filming the video. So just like that, in our situation also, when we are conducting a research or an experiment, we the first thing that comes to our mind and that should come to our mind is to eliminate the factors that might influence our DV, a dependent variable. First method is elimination. Elimination methods. For example is given here. Conduct experiment in soundproof rooms. If we are doing an experiment on attention, if our topic is attention, okay. So some distractions might influence our attention, isn't it? Our attention might be focused on that object that is causing the distraction. Like when you are doing an examination, when you're writing an examination, if you hear your favorite songs in the background, you'll get distracted, isn't it? So the best way is to eliminate those distractions, eliminate the factors that can influence your attention. So here, soundproof rooms. That is one example. Even when I was studying post graduation course, that is masters in psychology, when I was doing that, we had a soundproof room for external Viva examinations. Not only external, internal also. We used to conduct that there. So we would be much more relaxed there, and we won't have any other distractions. And another benefit is that the other students will not hear what questions are asked to us, and our own teachers will not know what blunders we answer during the external Viva. Okay, so that is one method of controlling. So the first control technique is to elimination. That is the first control technique. Now the next one, when elimination is not possible, obviously, I told you in the children's case itself, if elimination is not possible, because they came to the park to play, isn't it? We cannot, because of our research, we cannot ask them to get out of the park. They might have bought the tickets and they might have spent money on that. So if that is not possible, then try to hold the factors constant so that their effect remains the same throughout the experiment, which means if we have groups, then we'll maintain the presence of children all throughout the experiment. Okay, it's not that in one test children will be present, on the other test children won't be present. It should be constant all throughout the experiment. Now one similar method is matching. For controlling organismic and background variables, matching is also used. Here, the relevant variables in the two groups are equated or are held constant by taking matched pairs across conditions of the experiment, which means if we are taking a control group and an experimental group, obviously we need a control group and an experimental group for an experimental method when we do a research using experimental method. So we can, or you tell me, in one group I take only males and the other group I take only females. Is that the right way? No. But instead, what will we do? So there will be an influence of gender in the two groups, isn't it? So gender becomes an extraneous variable. Gender will have an influence on the result that we are trying to find. So for that, to eliminate that factor, we'll do matching. Matching means equal amount of males and females are present in two groups. So for one male in this group, there is another female in this group. For one female in this group, there is another male in this group, and vice versa also. Not vice versa. For one female, there is another female here. For one male, there is another male here. So matching occurs in both the groups. So we can ensure that the influence of gender is not there in both these groups. Okay, that is the method of
Ma'am,
matching. Yes, Kevin?
ma'am, if we want a specific, like if we want a specific result for only one particular gender, we can do that also, right?
Yes, that during that situation, our independent variable becomes gender, isn't it? We are studying influence of gender on something. I told you in the beginning when we learned about variables, maybe in one situation, one IV might become the DV of another research. If we are studying the influence of gender on maybe use of cosmetics or aggressive behaviors, are men more aggressive or are females or are women more aggressive? To study that, obviously, we have to keep independent variable as the gender. And what are we varying? Again, gender. We are varying it in two sense. One is female, one is male. And if we are interested, we can also involve other genders, transgenders, something like that. Understood? Okay. So here in our example, I told you, if gender is an extraneous variable, then we have to control it. So by that method, we match. Otherwise, if we are interested to study gender's influence on something, then we take two groups. That is, one group of males, one group of females, and do the study. Understood? Then next method is counterbalancing. Counterbalancing is especially useful when we have this sequence effect or we have sequential variables. I told you, if they are treated or if they are tested under certain conditions, like in a series or in a sequence, if they're provided with a sequence of tests, then that will influence their behavior. So to eliminate that, we have something called counterbalancing. You can write the definition. Counterbalancing is a technique used to deal with order effects when using a repeated measures design. I'll read it once more. Counterbalancing is a technique used to deal with order effects when using a repeated measures design. When using a repeated measures design. Okay, so what we do is we have a set of sample. Participant sample means what is population and sample? What is the difference? I hope you have learned in probability.
Sample is only a part of the population.
Population, yeah. Population is the whole set of individuals. Okay, sample is only one part of that population. So whenever we do a study, the participants that we take for the study, that forms our sample. Okay, and in that sample, we divide them into half. Okay, we have a sample of individuals, so sample of participants, and we divide them into half. So if there are two tests A and B, then one half will receive in the sequence AB. Okay, and the other half will receive the test in the order BA. So from that, we can ensure that there is no influence of this order coming into play. Understood? Maybe test A is depicting depressions test. Okay, depressions test may be with 10 questions. Okay, depressions test with 10 questions, and test B might be regarding personality, which has around maybe 50 questions. So we can give group one, that is group one means one sample of individuals we have divided into two halves, and first half will receive in this order, that is A and then B, and second half will receive this in next order, B and then A. So altogether, that is a mix, right? Mix of AB and BA. With that, we can ensure that there are no order effects coming into play. If this doesn't happen, like we have a sample of around 50 participants, and for all the participants, we are providing the test in this order, first A and then B. That is first depressions test, then personality test. Imagine this happens. Okay, then we cannot know that the influence on DV was occurred because of this order. To ensure that this doesn't influence our order, or to ensure that our influence is constant all throughout the participants, we do this method of counterbalancing. Okay, so AB is done and the other half receives B and then A. Okay, that is a method of counterbalancing. So counterbalancing is a control technique. This is especially important when we have or when we doubt the influence of sequence effect or order effect. Okay, and how is it done? We divide the group into two halves. One half receives the treatment in A B order, or the other half receives the treatment in B A order. Okay, if there are more than the number of two, I mean, two tests, more than two tests are there, then we give it in the order A, B, B, or maybe A, B, A, B, like that. We'll mix and give. That is the method of counterbalancing. Now, random assignment. Again, probability you might have learned. Random assignment. Random assignment, what are the methods of random assignment? Anyone?
I'm like lots.
Yeah, lots. Taking lots can be one method of random assignment. Then Do that method? Maybe I can just, if I want to divide the class into two groups, I can ask you to take numbers 1, 2, 1, 2, counts of 2, or counts of 3. Maybe if I want to divide you guys into 3 groups, I can ask you to count in threes and form groups based on that. So all the ones form one group, all the twos form one group, all the threes form another group. That's completely random, isn't it? I'm not having any bias. I'm not I'm not judging. I'm not dividing you based on any bias that I have. So that ensures that different types of people are a part of one group. There is not a biased group that I form. Okay, so that is the last method, which is random assignment. Random assignment of participants to different groups ensures that each person has an equal chance of being included in any of the groups. So the chance of one person entering a particular group, that is equal to the other person entering the other group. Okay, if we take just two people from the group, then chance of A entering group 1 and B entering group 1 is the same. Okay. So each and every individual has a chance of getting into a group. That is ensured by random assignment. So these are the basic control techniques that we use to control 3 types of variables. Which are the 3 types of variables? Shreya? Shreya vanished again. Amal Roshan, can you name any one type of variable that we try to control? We learned about 3 variables. One is particular to the individual, one is particular to the environment, the other one is regarding the order or the sequence. What is the name? You don't know? No. Tell me something. Should I ask somebody else?
Random.
Random. No. Eva.
Ma'am, organismic variable, sequential variable,
One more.
and situational variable.
Situational variables. Organismic variables, situational or environmental variables. Third one is sequential variables. Okay, we try to control these 3 variables. And which are the methods? Alina, name anyone.
Elimination.
Elimination. That is the first and foremost method that we should think of. Elimination. Then Malavika.
Counterbalancing.
Counterbalancing. That is another technique. Then Rose. Any other method?
Elimination.
Elimination is already discussed. Elimination and counterbalancing done. Next.
Situational.
Situational. Situational.
Random.
Situational random what? Random is correct. Random what?
Random technique.
Random assignment. Okay. Then Anila. Any other technique? Counterbalancing, random assignment, elimination. What will we do if we can't eliminate them? Emily,
Constant.
we keep it constant. That is one method. Otherwise,
Matching.
matching. We'll do matching. Show you the slides once more. Okay, one is eliminate this one. Second one is keeping the factors constant. Then comes matching method. Then we have counterbalancing, and last one is random assignment. Okay, I hope it's clear. Do you have any doubt? Anyone? No. Okay. So the next one, advantages and disadvantages. I don't know if it's there in the textbook, so you can just note it. Okay, advantages. They provide a convincing evidence of cause-effect relationship. The main thing is to find cause-effect relationship. That is the main advantage. Okay, with the observation method and all, we cannot find this cause-effect relationship between two variables. So this is one advantage. Then results of experimental design can be duplicated, which means if you conduct an experiment today, I can conduct that experiment, the same experiment the next day, or maybe after 5 years. Even you yourself can revise that study. You can make sure that this result is applicable even after 5 years or 10 years. You can do the same research again using experimental method, that is, can be duplicated. Then it can be easily combined with other research methods. Maybe we can add this to the survey method, to interview methods, etc. It is combinable with the other methods. That is the advantage. So cause effect relationship can be duplicated. Also, it can also be combined with the other methods. Okay. And the next disadvantages. Experiments may produce results that do not generalize well or apply to real situations. That is, they have low external validity. What is external validity? External validity means it is less applicable to the real life situations. That is one disadvantage. Okay, or we have to be very much, we have to do the research in a very sophisticated manner to increase its applicability. Okay, why is it so? Because we are controlling so many factors, isn't it? While doing a research, while doing an experiment, while doing a research using experimental method, we are controlling so many factors. Just now we learned how to control things, how to control these factors. So that itself is reducing its external validity. Like in real life, all these factors won't come as control, isn't it? Even the temperature factors, it's not necessary that is control all the time. Even during these days, it's changing every now and then. The temperature, the humidity, the climate itself is changing very drastically. So that is one problem with experiments. It has low external validity. External validity means it refers to how well the outcome of a study can be expected to apply to other settings or situations. That means how much it is applicable. That is external validity. Now, it is not always feasible. Okay, it's not much practical always, or maybe some experiments are not affordable also. It's very expensive. We need to take permission from lots of authorities. Then children cannot be put to staff to study the influence of nutritional deficiency to intelligence, isn't it? Yeah, that's not feasible. That's not much practical. It might be practical, but for that we should be heartless. It's okay. Then the last point is it is difficult to know and control all the relevant variables. When we do a research, you'll understand how much difficult it is to control the variables. Like just now we thought of gender, isn't it? Like that, so there are so many factors that comes under the category of organismic, situational, or sequential variables. It's very difficult to control each and every one of them. So that is also one disadvantage of experimental method. Okay.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes. Finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, next one. Disadvantages: low external validity, not always feasible, and difficult to control all the extraneous variables. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. We'll just complete this portion and leave. So, field experiments and quasi experiments. That's the next topic we have. Field experiments and quasi experiments. Field experiments, from the name itself, you might understand what it is. You go to the field, just like natural observation. You do a field study. The study is done in a field that a particular behavior or phenomena occurs. So if a researcher wants to have high generalizability or to conduct studies which are not possible in laboratory settings, okay, so this method helps to increase what just now we learned one disadvantage. So field experiments help to increase something. What is that?
External validity.
Very good. External validity. So high generalizability. It ensures high generalizability. Or when it is very difficult to conduct experiments in the laboratory, like topics like, again, this nutritional deficiency, malnutrition. We can take people who already have malnutrition, then study that effects, isn't it? We cannot put them to starve. So it's very difficult. And you may go to the field. That is the highlight here. Or the natural setting, field or the natural setting where the particular phenomena actually exists or the particular behavior actually occurs. I talked about, I think, the play school children when we observed, when we talked about natural observation. Yeah, that is also similar to this field experiment. If you want to study an experimental situation regarding preschool children, we can go to a preschool, isn't it? We can go to a kindergarten or something and then conduct the experiment. But for that also we have to get permission from their parents, from the school authorities and all. Okay. Now, in other words, he or she may conduct a field experiment, obviously, an experiment in the field or in the natural setting where the behavior or the phenomenon actually occurs. That is field experiment. For example, a researcher may want to know which method would lead to better learning among students, lecture or demonstration method. So if you're doing a field study, obviously, where would you go?
School.
Cool. Yeah, that's obvious, right? For this, a researcher may prefer to conduct an experiment in the school. That is an example of a field experiment. Now, the researcher may select two groups of participants, teach one group by demonstration method and another group by normal teaching method for some time. He or she may compare their performance at the end of learning session. In such types of experiments, the control over relevant variables is less than what we find in laboratory experiments. Also, it is more time consuming. That is one problem of field experiment and very expensive also, because we might take more time to get permission from the authorities, get permission from all the parents of these students. Then we need to find time where children are present in the class. Okay, and should not disturb their learning, the routine classes also. So we have to take care of a lot of factors. So it's a bit difficult than the actual laboratory experiments. The next is quasi experiments. A quasi experiment is designed a lot like true experiment, except that in the quasi experimental design, the participants are not randomly assigned to experimental groups. Remember, I told you, if you want to study the effect of natural disasters on behavior, we can't create a natural disaster, right? Instead, what will we do? We'll take participants who are the victims of these natural disasters. So it's actually not a true experiment, because the independent variable, what is the independent variable here? The effect of natural disaster. Okay, so that is not assigned by us. We are not randomly assigning people to these groups. Instead, the phenomenon has already occurred. We take that sample and do the experiment. That is quasi experiment. It looks like a true experiment, except for the fact that the independent variable is not manipulated, but it is already assigned. See the statement: independent variable is selected rather than varied or manipulated by the experimenter. Okay. So that's about experimental method. We have completed that. All right. I'm stopping to share. Time to wind up. So we'll meet in the next class. Okay. If you have any doubt regarding this topic, ask me in the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you.